would be when they are overseeing the verification and tally of the presidential election result at the center before the same is then declared on behalf and for, and but for the people of Kenya by the chair. So what is oversight? I ask this because we were informed yesterday, and I think you are here, that instead of perhaps playing this role, some of them were allocated welfare scenarios, protocol, and media. But what is oversight? What would they be oversighting over? That's the question. In other words, at what point in this corporate entity scenario does the chair then disengage from the other commissioners? Be they 2 or be they 5 or 6? When do you say this is chair qua chair and this is chair as part of the commission? Because we need to understand that. We've been asked to provide clarity. Then let's go to Mahat. Mahat, there is this story about this Venezuelan. And one of the issues is whether the technology system employed or deployed was penetrated. And you did tell us, again, quite robustly, that there was no such penetration or infiltration or intrusion, whichever. But you did also concede that this Venezuelan, whatever his name is, had access to the server. But your answer was that the contract between the IEBC and Smartmatic was to supply and maintenance. So if I understood you correctly, this Venezuelan was accessing the server as part of the maintenance. So what is this maintenance? What does it entail? What was he doing there? Say he was released and locked out just before the election. So what was he maintaining in that system? Maybe you just want to tell us what maintenance entails as part of that contract agreement. Then back to the question of percentages, again, in terms of the turnout. I think I asked this question, I asked Mr. Orengo, but now that you may not have another, you may also want to address it. In the arguments that have been presented before us, Mr. Chebukati, the chair, first mentioned a 65.4% turnout. And then he did indicate that that was bound to change as results kept streaming in, especially if you took into consideration the number of those who had voted manually and the numbers that had yet to come in from the elders. Now, it is the petitioner's argument that if there was to be any change at all, then that percentage would have to increase rather than decrease. So I don't know. And how relevant, again, is this turnout to the determination of whether a candidate gathered 50% plus 1 vote? And then, you see, we have been asked by Mr. Ngatia, who do you believe among these 2 protagonists? Who do you believe? This question has been put to us, and believe you me, we will have to deal with it. Who do we believe? Now, the question of the National Security Advisory Council. This, I think, Mr. Oraro, this could be of interest to you. On the one hand, you are telling us that this personnel visited the premises at the Bomas to express their concern, because, of course, being an advisory council, they must have arrived at a conclusion that unless results were released then there was bound to be chaos. But on the other hand, the chair, in his affidavit, tells the court that the only reason the AG, or I mean not the AG, but the individuals, distinguished people for whom we have a lot of respect, paid that visit was to tell the chair to somehow re-engineer the results in favor of one of the candidates. Now, this is not a question to you, but a question to Mr. Chebukati's counsel. Professor, you may want to, or even Mr. Karori, are we to assume that by the time Mr. Kinyua placed this call, if the intention was to influence the declaration of the results, to change it, to re-engineer it, are we to assume that by the time that call was placed, and by the time this gentleman paid this visit, they already knew the results? Because there's no way they would have been on that mission if they had not known the results. So are we to assume that in fact, if this be their mission, are we to assume that they already knew the results? Okay. Then finally, Mr. Kilokumi, you know, you cited King Solomon. And this court treats Holy Scriptures very seriously. You came up with, you say there is victory. Because in King Solomon's story, the protagonists were distinguished mothers. But here, you called them two gentlemen. But I also remember that one of the mothers who turned out, or the mother claimants, who according to Solomonic wisdom could not have been the mother, is the one who was saying, cut the baby. But the other one, I remember, said, no, let her take the baby. Because what she was interested in is to preserve the baby. Would you be willing to advise? I rest my case,
Okay. Thank you, Honorable CJ and President of the Court. I just have one inquiry, one question for the respondents, and it may go to, actually it may be answered by either the counsel, Senior Counsel Gidu Muigai and his team for the first and second respondents, or it could also be taken up at the same time by counsel for the ninth respondent. That is the team of the team of Senior Counsel Fred Ngatia. It's my understanding that one of the submissions and cases in response by the first and second respondents, on the one hand, and the ninth respondent, that is the President-elect, are placing the blame on the events of the ninth at the Tarling Center, Bomas of Kenya. That the two groups of parties are placing the blame on the first and second petitioners' agents and sympathizers and supporters during the tallying and verification. Of course, we have images. Some of us, many of us were not there. At least the bench was not there. But we have images which we saw on TV. We cannot say anything about what exactly happened, but we just know there was commotion, and people are having throwing chairs and even perhaps attempts to harm each other. But we cannot say anything about it ourselves as a bench. Neither were those matters before us in these proceedings. No no evidence or, okay, allegations, the affidavits. We have seen the affidavits, seen the submissions, but no actually determination or delving into any evidence. So, and yet there is a request, a suggestion that we should attribute and apportion blame among the, we should place the blame on some parties, particularly the petitioners, because of their agents, supporters, and therefore actually you expect, particularly I can see the submissions of the 9th respondents, and even I saw the affidavit of Professor Goulier, where he actually says he expects action to be taken to investigate those criminal election offenses. So I just wanted to inquire that would you expect, having had such elaborate submissions and affidavits, would you still expect us to make a determination, apportion blame, attribute blame, yet really the matter is not before us? Neither are we witnesses, neither were we at the Bomas, neither were these matters had on merit before us. That's the question I would like you to think about and reflect. And when you come back, you will tell us whether you expect any release from us on that aspect. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge President. My clarifications will be sought from the team led by Professor Gibu Muigai, Senior Counsel. The first clarification I seek is as follows. As regards the requirements of Article 140, and just remaining within Article 140, and even considering that the 4 new commissioners only arrived in, was it September last year? And whatever it is they've been doing on a day-to-day basis, please clarify in my mind, because it's a major issue here, what the constitutional role of the 6 commissioners is under Article 140. And once you tell us what it is, just position their role against that of the staff of the Secretariat and of the chair. To the same team, and that is as per Article 138, 3C. To the same team, of course, numbers are critical. They are, for me, they are. Because that is a mandate of 138 for A and B, the threshold, the 50% plus 1. And numbers are important for as long as they are not negated by any other process. And numbers would point to a good election, a good result, if they are not affected by anything else. And if Article 138 for A and B are not enough, deriving from them, this court in 2017 told us that although numbers were very, very important, other things could affect the numbers. Now, here is my concern. With the fact of the numbers being undisputed, they are important, kindly comment on whether or not, this question flows from the first one, The walking away of the 4 commissioners to go and hold, was it an IEBC meeting at Serena? Or was the IEBC meeting at Bomas? But please comment on the walking away of the 4 commissioners almost at the same time as the chair was about to declare the results. And in fact, I recall, because I was glued on TV myself, among their first words were that we have done an excellent job as concerns this election. But the results that the chairman is about to release are his results. So please comment for my benefit that working out and how was it timed? You've got to know, because these are your clients, that they would be walking out of Bomas to Serena to allow all media houses, in fact, except for the violence that occurred at Bomas, the split screens of media houses would have been showing each one of them addressing us, the Kenyan voter, at the same time. In fact, at one moment there, I thought the team at Serena would give us their numbers, and the team at Bomas was going to give us their own numbers. So my concern is, does their walking out mean anything under Article 140? If it does, what is it? If it doesn't, why not? Still on numbers, and answering all of us, yours and our issue number 4 and 5, we were told, and I need clarity on this one because it cuts across 2 main issues, that the turnout, the voter turnout, was affected by the postponed election. Now, this is my concern. On the 9th, we were voting for 6 people, 6 officers. And we actually voted for 6 officers, including in the places where elections were postponed. And we were told that turnout was affected by the postponement. And since you are the central player in this thing, you could pass this to Mahat or anybody else in your team. Did the postponement affect only the vote of the president? And since we are in the habit of taking judicial notice, and since I am in a position to take judicial notice of the fact that elections have since happened in the postponed areas, have the subsequent elections returned a different result as to turnout? Because that happened, was it Monday? And we have yet to write a judgment. If they are affected, in what respect? Mr. Mahat, you told us that there is a holy place, you called it a sanctified place for the agents, and that it is the responsibility of parties to have agents. Your sister, while submitting, Ngania, told us that in 2017, we also emphasized the position of the agent. This is my question flowing from that, and it goes to the process of the election. What if there were no agents? The Article 81, I think 81E, places the burden of ensuring that we have a fair, free, transparent, accountable, and all those things election, where, for whatever reason, agents are not present at an election. Is it not the role of the IEBC to ensure that Article 81E is upheld? And in the event, I know you said in Tiati, some constituency there, in fact, there were no agents from anyone. The process, and where there are no agents, the process. Finally, we have seen somebody named the 4 commissioners as respondents. One of these petitions, or some of them, named them as respondents. I think someone had even named them as interested parties or something like that during interlocutories. But by whatever name code, they remain commissioners. We have seen affidavits that they have sworn, which tend to show that they take certain positions. Now, what is the position to be taken by a commissioner? Is it a position of the party, any party, or is it the neutral position of the IEBC? And when they take, as I think they have done in this case, the position of any side, what is the court to do? Did I say finally? Then I'll say the second finally. That Kinyua's call, Mr. Joseph Kinyua's call, and whatever else that happened, the night meetings, the security issues, and so on and so forth. The name of this commission starts with the letter I, which says, I stands for the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And in the body of 88 going down is that, and even in their act, they shall not be directed in the manner in which they do their work. But I want you to clarify in my mind, because it's now an issue here, when it comes to writing the judgment, what do you want me to write? There are commissioners, and we talked about the dysfunctionality. It came from you, it didn't come from this side of the bench. Of the commission, I'm glad today I have had an attempt at answering my question yesterday as to when it became dysfunctional. But I'm still waiting for answers from the person to whom the question was directed, which is the petitioners. But tell me what the IEBC was supposed to do. On the one hand, they are being told, hurry up and announce. On the other hand, the court, as represented by the Honorable Mr. Justice Isaac Lenaola, is saying, but there is still time. There is yet another day before you can announce what is the IEBC to do. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, President.
Thank you, colleagues, for those questions. I think they were quite comprehensive. The team led by Professor Githu Muigai, you can see what we want to understand is this disconnect arising from IEBC. Because when we look at Article 88, the role of IEBC is to supervise and conduct elections. I do not want to repeat this question. Why the chairman deemed it fit to allocate commissioners, I think what has been described as domestic chores, leaving the core business of IEBC to the CEO to supervise. We've been told that they did a good job in the polling stations. Polling went on well, counting, tallying, and transmission until the National Tallying Center, where they are all there, but they are not doing the core business of, according to the Constitution, they have been given other duties. This is bringing a lot of questions in our minds. Then when we look at Article 138, 3C, we see they have a law, at least to look at the tallying results and ask questions whether the president-elect met the constitutional threshold. Before the chairman can go and announce the results, because we all understand nobody can tinker with the forms 34A and B the way they have come. And you have heard IEBC being likened to the Supreme Court, much to the chagrin of the judges here, because the question which was being asked, I think, by Mr. Otieno is that if 7 people are sitting on a judgment or a decision and there is a dissenting voice, why didn't the chairman tell Kenyans exactly what happened? That we conducted this election, we came to the National Tallying Center, we have these results, but some of the colleagues have a dissenting voice. They will tell Kenyans why they are dissenting. Another thing that worries us, and I think your team should answer, is why the live streaming of the results stopped. Because if Kenyans were able to follow the streaming from the beginning to the end, which was being done in the spirit of accountability and stability and transparency, then the rhyme which we were being told of the pige pige ponki would not arise, because there would have been no confusion. We know this is how things are happening, and therefore maybe the losing candidate who is being called to go to the National Tallying Center can decide not to go, because they know already the results they are on the screen. So I would also like a clarification. The question has been asked, and it was demonstrated very ably by Mr. Mahat, I would really like to follow his presentation because he did it with the passion. Mr. Kirago Kemani also did it, but I think I want you, Mr. Mahat, to, just demonstrate how the forms 34A that were attached to the affidavits of the respondents were photoshopped. I think I liked your language of photoshopping, and I could follow it, but I want to understand exactly how they were photoshopped. I think that is what I would like to ask. Thank you. Oh, one more.
Thank you, CJ. Sorry, I don't know whether it has been, but time without number, the issue of the 27 constituencies whose results, it is said, had not been included in the final tally before the announcement was made, keeps coming up. We have been told that, in fact, these 27 constituency results had been verified and tallied. But because of the commotion, somehow they would not be part of the announcement. But why did the chair, just before, when CAM was restored, why would he not have included them? Because they had already been verified and tallied. Or did not include in the final so that they shouldn't be here bothering us? Why was it, where was the hurry this time? And already the results had been tallied and verified. Thank you, CJ.
Sorry, I just forgot a quick question, Professor Muigai, regarding my questions on Article 138. What is the implication of what you are suggesting on the chairpersons of other commissions? And I say chairperson, I noticed today everyone's talking about chairman, chairman, chairman. The correct term is chairperson.
Senior Counsel, I think myself that, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, that the most important day for a commissioner of the IEBC has got to be that time that they are doing the presidential election, and I think there is a reason why their term is 6 years, because our elections are every 5 years. So that, I think it's likely that in the 6 years, or whatever time one gets in, a commissioner would have to conduct an election, a general election. Let's not just say presidential, but a general election. Therefore, what is the role of the commissioner, the 7 commissioners? Back to my question number 1, and strictly under Article 140 for me, and 138, 3C. Thank you.
My lady, my lords, we thank you for those very incisive questions. My team has requested me to very humbly request you to give us time, because you place much weight on those issues. We would equally want to come back, not with off-the-cuff remarks, but with well thought out responses that can help you appreciate the issues you've raised. And I think that that would put us in parity with our colleagues, because you raised questions with them yesterday. They've had 24 hours. I think they are still mulling over them. In their case, I think there were more difficult questions. If you would very kindly allow us to respond tomorrow morning, we assure you we will not take more than the time you will allocate us. And this is particularly for Mr. Mahat, our numbers expert, because he would like again to have something to demonstrate to the court on the screen. Thank you.
Yes, we are consulting because we did not want to give you a second bite of the cherry. You know you have no right to reply as respondents. But we have asked these questions on the tailhead. The hour is also late, but you know we are operating under very, very strict timelines because of the extraordinary circumstances of this matter. We have agreed to allow you to respond in the morning, considering that if you put your minds together, you'll be faster in the response than if we do it now. So we will give you 15 minutes tomorrow morning to respond, fasting tomorrow morning, to respond to those questions.
Milady, we don't want to sound ungrateful. We welcome the change you have made and thank the court, but we would request 30 minutes. And we will try our best, although you've asked these questions of many of us, we will try to have, at the very most, 2 people speak to it. 1 person to the law and 1 person to the numbers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes. Yes. Thank you very much. I think that brings us to the end of today's proceedings. We will share in the course of this evening the report from the discovery or the scrutiny that went on. And then the order of business tomorrow, we will start with the team of Professor Githu Muigai responding to those questions. And then we will hear the rebuttal by the petitioners. And thereafter, we will give the parties who are participating in the scrutiny. That is the first petitioner, I think Youth Advocacy, KERIF, then IMBC, and the first respondent to comment on the report on scrutiny. We'll give each 15 minutes because we are trying to see how we can bring these proceedings to an end at least by midday tomorrow, so that for us we can retreat to our chambers to work, to do the biggest job that has fallen on our hands, to come up with a judgment by Monday. So we will continue to ask you to bear with us and be very kind to us. Thank you very much. Have a very nice evening.